managing editor at Blogging the Boys. And it's always fun to talk to him right here on the home of your World Series champion Texas Rangers, 105 through the fan. RJ Ochoa, what's happening, my boy?
RJ.
Reggie, CA, great to be with you, Reggie. I was on with CA and KG on Sunday, and I extended my congratulations to the Rangers, and I'm not going to do it again, even though you weren't there.
What do you mean? It was a very simple setup for the segment. I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't say it then. I do want to say I'm so happy for all of you, but I'm really happy for Jared Sandler. Jared's a good friend, and it's just been so cool. I think the magic and the power of sports is really amazing, and it's just been as sad as I am. I'm just so happy kind of watching Jared. I think every Rangers fan is living through him and his fantastic coverage all season long. So it's been, I wouldn't say cool, but it's been less awful than it usually is.
I guess we'll never know.
Wow. Okay, RJ, that's such a kind sentiment. You're such a big person. I appreciate that for you.
Real quick. RJ, say hello to Blake.
Yes,
newest member of the show.
Blake, great to be with you. Great name, Blake of the Year candidate already, I imagine. And you're doing a fantastic job. Make sure you keep Reggie in check.
Yes, sir. I can do that. Nice to meet you, Mr. RJ. Nice to meet you.
It is necessary to keep me in check. One thing that can't be kept in check, though, recently is this Cowboys offense, RJ. We were just talking about how impressed we are with the way that it's progressed over the last month or so, and obviously like from where it started at the beginning of the season. How about you? How impressed have you been in the ways that Mike McCarthy has progressed this offense?
I feel like I've defended Mike more than maybe the average Cowboys fan. So it's been nice to kind of see, I don't know if I would say his vision, but at least his success unfold. Everybody is so quick to jump on him when things aren't going right. And so, there's nothing but silence. I mean, I think the name Texas Coast is really dumb, just to be straight up with you guys, but everybody was kind of dragging it, obviously after San Francisco. And there's a lot of credit to go around. And I know that we get a little bit triggered when it comes to the word and the analogy based around pie. But I don't understand why Mike is not getting any credit. I mean, these fools put up almost 700 yards of offense. And I have not seen one person give Mike McCarthy credit for taking over play calling and enacting what he wanted to do this season. So good for Mikey Mack. I'm happy for him.
Question, Mr. RJ. So we talked about Rangers sports winning a World Series. How much of that aura of the Rangers winning the World Series do you think has worn off on other Dallas teams, specifically the Dallas Cowboys?
Blake, you can go to hell.
Good answer.
It is, I would love to see. I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, just to piss y'all off a little bit more.
Wow.
You're going to have to hang up on him.
I'm a citizen of the Rio Grande Valley, guys. I mean,
this
is just kind of the way I grew up.
A lovely place, mind you.
I would be very interested to see a city or a metropolis or metroplex, whatever you want to call it, kind of have them all. I know we've come close. I mean, the Warriors had a chance, and the Giants, kind of had their little run. That was a pure accident. Didn't mean to go down that path. But the Niners came close. Obviously, Boston has had a million parades. It would be cool, just like a cool sports thing to see, like all four major sports titles in the United States belonging to the same region at the same time. I would like to see that, before it's all said and done.
Do you think Jerry Jones is a little jealous?
I don't know how you can't be. I mean, look, there's been how many parades in Dallas? I mean, since 1995.
The other three teams have all won championships since the Cowboys have even made it to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and I mean, all due respect to the Rangers and the Mavericks and the Stars, I think that they would all swap places with the Cowboys when you consider financial valuations and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild and it's pretty insane, and we all know how heavy the crown is and how heavy the shadow is that kind of lives over this team that everybody's kind of fighting through. But I mean, look, at some point it will end, right? I don't know if it's this year or 50 years from now, but at some point it will end. And I tell you what, that parade, that off season, we will be the loudest, most annoying people that any fan base have ever been, because we have crawled through some stuff to get to it.
A long time. We're talking to RJ Ochoa, managing editor, Blogging the Boys. Hey, RJ, how would you fix the Cowboys running game?
It's tough seeing. And this is probably the worst part of what we've all chosen to do for a living. Talking about when people aren't playing well or aren't doing their jobs well, especially because, I can't do that job. And so I think at this point, like, we're deep enough to where we need to see more Rico Dowdle. I mean, like, that's just, it is what it is. And we don't have to put a number on it. We don't have to say it has to be 60-40 or whatever the case may be. And for what it's worth, I think that the Cowboys might agree with that. I mean, just based on how early and often we saw Rico last week. I mean, I don't, CA, we talked about it on Sunday. I don't put a lot of stock into things like, oh, it's about being the one and about being the primary guy. That kind of stuff always sounds so silly to me, but we're over halfway through the season now. And I mean, the results kind of speak for themselves. So I'm not saying Rico Dowdle's the answer, but at this point, they've tried a lot of different things. And, there's a lot of credit to go around. So many other dudes are playing well that it just kind of feels like, this is a math test and we've tried all the answers and we kind of have to try something a little bit different to hopefully find the solution. We
got a Tolo from the 817 who put it best. I was talking about how Pollard's not the guy for the dirty yards, that he's a change of pace kind of guy. 817 says Pollard is good when the defense is tired.
I think that's, not unfair. There might be kernels of truth in everything. I know last year we laughed at, the idea of Pollard not being able to handle this many touches or that many touches. But again, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. And, we're not saying that after week 3. I mean, next week is Thanksgiving, what I mean? And this is the conversation. So it's very clear that Rico, call it, I hate saying this because it sounds so like superficial, but just runs differently. I mean, he's a more physical, aggressive runner. And so if you subscribe to the mindset that needs to come in first to wear people down, by all means. At this point, we've tried, 8 of the other, 10 solutions. Let's try 9 and 10 to see if this is it.
RJ, when it comes to, Mozzie Smith, it's been kind of a little bit of a slow go of it. It's somewhat expected when you talk about a defensive tackle coming on, but this seemed to be his best game thus far. How much do you attribute that to just natural development and growth over the course of the season? And then, how much is just playing a Giants offensive line that's been battered?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want to get too carried away and say like, oh, he's arrived. The Eagles really messed up taking Jalen Carter, something like that. But I mean, it's a difficult position to succeed at right away. And obviously everybody knows that. And we're kind of around the time where it makes sense that he would kind of start to thrive. But so, I mean, I think you can objectively say he has had the best game he's ever had as a professional. His stock is as high as it's ever been as far as, his time with the Cowboys is concerned. And there's all the more reason to believe in him moving forward. And, there's reason to trust him against the Carolina Panthers, I guess, is the very least. I'm willing to go on this. And, you build from here. I do think there's value in that, obviously, psychological value to kind of playing well, even if it is against crummy teams. And, look, I mean, everybody else gets to play these Giants teams too. Like, the idea that, other players are going up against elite offensive lines week in and week out is a little bit silly, but kudos to Mozzie. Tough times, though, for his alma mater, obviously.
RJ, I got a final question here for you. One thing to nitpick, I know the Cowboys have been playing well this season, but when I'm watching the game, I'm not too in love with the offensive line, especially in the run game and then in the pass game, or the pass block, I should say, Terrence Steele. So what is your evaluation on the Cowboys O-line? Do you think it's anything to worry about or not much to it?
I tell you what, I think the most emblematic thing of the group to me is Tyron. I mean, I don't know the last time Tyron has been this reliable, not just from a physical standpoint, from a physical health standpoint, but from a skill standpoint. I mean, Tyron Smith has been awesome as of late. And I know, obviously, he's played and he's been around at different points throughout the last couple of seasons and whatnot. But, I mean, this is probably the most trust I've had in the Cowboys offensive line since right before Terrence got hurt against Houston around this time last year. So, I mean, they've made their bed on this. I mean, this is how they want to rock. And I don't think it hurts Terrence Steele to have these kind of low-quality teams to go up against to kind of boost his confidence up, especially coming off of that performance in Philadelphia. I mean, I think they're probably somewhere around the 12th to 13th best offensive line in the NFL right now. And I think that's certainly enough to work with, especially if you've got a quarterback who's playing at the level that Dak is.
Now, RJ, when it comes to this defense, we got news today that Leighton Vander Esch is lost for the season. There was still some hope, that he might come back off of IR and slot back into your linebacker room. What's your concern level? Understanding that you've signed the likes of Rashaan Evans and such that have come in and added some value, but especially when you talk about later in the season having to play against the best teams that might have some size with Damone Clark and Marquise Bell.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, and obviously Leighton's given a lot to the Cowboys, and if this is the end, I know a lot of people are kind of talking about that, are speculating on the internet about that. I mean, that would just, really suck. And so in terms of on-the-field implications, I mean, it's a different game than it was even when the Cowboys drafted Leighton, which is crazy given that was just 5 years ago. And so, I mean, Marquise Bell has been such an incredible project that Dan Quinn has turned into this force in the middle of his defense. And I mean, I think the reality is you're always one, scary moment away from being depleted at any particular position. But given the nature of the linebacker position relative to how it's kind of been utilized and rostered in a traditional sense, I mean, when Leighton goes down, all of a sudden you're kind of down in terms of numbers at your linebacker spot. And so I don't know that I have an enormous amount of faith in Rashaan Evans right now. I think I need a little bit more to kind of feel confident in him specifically. But the duo of Marquise Bell and Damone Clark, I think is definitely helping everybody sleep a little bit easier at night. Quickly,
before we get you out of here, how impressed are you with Deron Bland, or did you see this coming from last season?
I think if anyone says they saw this coming, they're either Al Harris or they're lying. It's impossible. What he's doing is insane, and it's obviously very reminiscent of Trayvon Diggs. And thankfully, Trayvon kind of came before Deron and absorbed all the criticism that you could kind of have for somebody who is generating that many turnovers. He is just another example, I think, of when we talked during the draft about the Cowboys finding dudes on day 3 that can contend and that can compete and can make their roster better. Shout out, obviously, to Will McClay and the entire scouting department. He's incredible. I mean, and listening to Stephon Gilmore talk about him on the Cowboys Hour yesterday, I mean, it is very clear that he is impressed. I mean, the dude impressed Stephon Gilmore. That's a really difficult thing to do. So he goes about it the right way. I've never been this, calm about the future of the cornerback position with the Cowboys. Obviously, with Trayvon coming back next year, they're set for a while. That's a really exciting thing.
He is the managing editor of Blogging the Boys, and he's always a good sport, and we appreciate you coming and shedding your knowledge, RJ.
I hope you guys eat something delicious and, have a hot tea before you head to the pillow tonight. That's what I want for each of you, including Blake.
We can do that. We can do that.
Likewise to you, RJ Ochoa,
Thanks, RJ.
Blogging the Boys. Appreciate you, man.
Y'all have a good night.